Okay, so today we're going to talk about planting these lovely little lettuces in the polytunnels. So these are something we planted about 4 or 5 weeks ago in here. They're now a size just big enough to plant out into the polytunnels. Don't plant them out if they're smaller than this. So these ones here, for example, I would probably leave another week or so just to get them a bit bigger to give them a chance when they get in the ground. But today we're going to put in some lettuce, and we're also going to put in some of this Pak Choi. Again, one other thing to point out in the Pak Choi here is some of these should only have been 1 seed per module. Some of them have actually got 2, which is kind of, they just compete against each other. So again, if you see things like that where they've got more than 1, we're just going to take them out and compost the little tiny bits, because you only want 1 per module to let them carry on growing. So now we're in the polytunnel. The thing we want to try to avoid to do is walking on the beds and putting too much weight on, because the soil is reasonably light and free draining. You stand on it with your foot, you're obviously going to start compacting it. So if you use a plank, it just spreads your weight along better. Also gives you a nice straight edge to plant along. Okay, so first we're going to dig a small hole just to put our plant into. We're going to take a handful of the compost to fill up our hole, really, just to give the plant something to get its roots into. If you do find any weeds in the bed, just put them out and we'll compost those. And then the plants, we're just going to very gently ease them out. Again, I use a pencil just to get them in there under. Don't push them up from the bottom, because you just break the modules and then we can't reuse them. And then what you're going to then do is just put your plant in the hole, gently push the soil around it, firm it round reasonably gently. And then the spacing of these, we're going to basically make, it's about 20 centimetres, which is about a hand span. So again, dig your next hole, fill it up with compost and carry on. Okay, so you've done 1 row. What you're then going to do is put the second row in. They want to be about 30 centimetres apart in the rows. So again, that's about the trowel length. So dig your next hole. And again, it's just more efficient and a better use of space, that if you can just put them in the gaps, as you'll see in a minute, then again, it just means maximising the space around them. Again, if you find any big stones in the bed, just take them out. So again, we'll just carry on with the next row, planting them in. Ease it out. Just the soil gently around it, and away you go. And finally, we're going to just water these in. Now it's much cooler. Obviously, they don't need so much water and much regular water, because they will just retain the water in the ground. But again, just a gentle water around the plant, settle its roots in, and again, if they fall over a bit, just kind of prop them back up so that they'll kind of keep on going. And we're just going to keep that going around very gently. You don't want to blast them out of the ground. You don't want to flood them. You just want to make sure the ground's nice and moist. And now we're going to do exactly the same as we did with that Pak Choi with these lovely lettuces. So again, we're going to come in here, we're going to dig a small hole there, put a handful of compost in, gently ease the plant out, like that, and pop it into our hole there. Gently firm the soil around it. And again, exactly the same. These want to be about 20 or 30 centimetres apart. So again, you just use a trowel link to do that. Again, avoid walking on the beds. Either use these planks across the beds, or if you're tall enough like me, you can probably reach the back of the bed without having to walk on it. So having planted all our lettuces out nicely spaced, we're finally going to cover them over with some mesh. We've had in the past years a bit of a problem with mice in this polytunnel. So what we do, we put this mesh on, try and make it a light as mesh as possible, so they can get as much light as possible, and then we're just going to weight it down all the way around just to keep the mice out. And we'll do that in both sides in here. I'm going to take a risk with that Pak Choi and keep the fingers crossed that the mice don't get them. If they do, we'll have to come up with another plan in that polytunnel too.